All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today's class is all about the sphere of influence. So in the resource page, we do have another sphere of influence video. This one's going to be a little shorter today. This one's going to be a little bit more interactive. I want to make sure that we're going through this correctly. I want to make sure we're answering questions. I really want to hit home on this, the importance of your sphere of influence and how to effectively go through life talking to them and interacting with them. Let's just leave it at that for now. So first, let's define sphere of influence, okay, or SOI, and let's define database. Right, a lot of times and I even do this when I talk, I might say database and I really mean sphere of influence. I might say sphere of influence and I might really mean database. I apologize for that. So let's define that right away here. Think of your database as, what was the last analogy I heard was awesome. Think of your database as a what am I looking for here when you fish? A fishing box? What am I looking for?
Tackle box.
Jeez, oh, thank you so much, because I must have hit record and got all nervous or something. Think of your database as a tackle box. And then inside of the tackle box, when you open that up, you've got different slots for different things in your tackle box. And then in the bottom of your tackle box, usually it's this big area. Okay, so if you ever seen a tackle box, open it up, you might have two, maybe one shelf with different little pockets. And then in the bottom, you have this bigger area where you can put, bigger lures and hooks and all of those types of things, right? What I want you to realize is that when I say sphere of influence is a chunk of your database. In sphere of influence, those people should be the largest chunk of your database. So if you think about that tackle box, your sphere of influence would probably be on the bottom. It's where the biggest area is to put stuff. The other layers of it have those different compartments, and that would be where I would classify your database in different categories, such as some of those little pockets might be leads. Some of those pockets might be vendors. Some of those pockets might be door knocking folks that you've met. Some of them might be open house people. You see, you can maybe have one shelf be called leads, and then in each pocket, there might be open house leads, there might be this, there might be that. Your database is defined how you want it to be. But what I really want you to understand is the database is the entire tackle box. It's everything in there. Your sphere of influence makes up a very large portion of your database, but it's not your whole database. And so your sphere of influence is defined as people who you know, love, and trust. Okay, that's really important to understand. That's really important to figure out how to define your database. You see, a lot of people it's really important to, see, I did it again. It's really important to know how to define your sphere of influence. See, I have some vendors that are in my database and they cross, meaning I have some vendors that I know, love, and trust. They're on my sphere of influence program, but they're also a vendor. So they're also labeled or in the toolbox in a different category under vendors. So everything I do for vendors, they receive and get, but also everything I do for my sphere of influence, they receive and get. But I also have vendors in there that will not and never will touch my sphere of influence. I don't really care for them as a person, meaning I just don't get along with them. It's not that I don't like them. It's just we don't have the same views. I like them as a vendor because of what they do, how they get the job done, the price they charge. But I'd never have them over to invite them over for a barbecue. That's kind of my defining line for a sphere of influence. If I know, love, and trust you, you're gonna come over to my house at some point in your life. We're gonna go out for beers. We're gonna go out for happy hour. There's gonna be something, right? And so we really want to define what is sphere of influence, because it's not your entire database. And so when we talk about sphere of influence throughout this video, and we talk about the touch program, you have to understand that it's only for people you know, love, and trust. Do not think about this touch program for leads, for open houses, for door knocking, for vendors. That's a different touch programs. We're not even going to get into that today, okay? So your sphere of influence. Now, let's break that down even further too. I have people in my life that I know, love, and trust that I might see twice a year. I also have people in my life that I know, love, and trust that I see once a week. Right? Those are maybe my neighbors. That's maybe a high school, college friend. That might be another coworker. That might be parents, grandparents, spouses. Those would be your very top sphere of influence. But how do we define that, right? If I have somebody I know, love, and trust, but I only see them 2 or 3 times a year, the people I'm going golfing with today, they're in my sphere of influence. We go golfing about twice a year. I see them around the holidays, and that's about it. But when we see each other, it's like time never passed. But somebody that I see 3 times a year, do they really need all of my marketing dollars spent on them? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on how you define them, right? But your sphere of influence most likely will have 3 to 4 categories. And here's kind of how I define those 3 to 4 categories. I do it based upon the frequency that I see them, as well as my draw to see them. Does that make sense? I mean, who in here has friends that if it wasn't for their effort, you might not really be friends or see them that often, right? We all have those people in our life. It's not that they super annoy us. It's not anything like that. It's just we might not think about them as much as they think about us. But then you have the people on the opposite spectrum. You think about them maybe more than they think about you, or it's equivalent, right? So when I define my database, or when I define my sphere of influence, I'm an ABC kind of guy. I've seen people do ABC. I've seen people do ABCD. I've seen people do A or A plus, ABC, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Define your database however you want, but it doesn't need to be complicated. When I say define it, what I'm really trying to encourage you to do is label your sphere of influence as 2 tags, okay? You're going to have one tag, and I would call it SOI. And then another tag, I would have it with the 3 or 4 ways that you define your database. And that would be, a separate tag, you guys. It's not SOI A plus, it's SOI and then a separate tag A plus. And there's a reason for that. Is one, you're going to do mass things for your entire sphere of influence. So you went with a tag, you can filter, show me my entire list for all SOI. And then sometimes you're going to want to do like this real niche sphere of influence event, right? This real, a backyard barbecue for your sphere of influence, but it's your A's. So then you would filter SOI and filter all of my A's. Bring up that list, send out the invite. So tagging is very, very important in your CRM, especially with your sphere of influence. I mean, it's important with your whole database, but with your sphere of influence, there's an extra layer because it's the biggest pond to fish out of in your database. But you also need to layer it so that way you're not overspending to people. So I have some people in my database, they never come to any events, they never answer any phone call, they don't answer any email, but they see it and they appreciate it, and they never want me to stop sending them a newsletter, and they refer me business. Where do you think they go? So I use an ABC. Where do you think somebody like that would go? I classify them in my business as a B. They want the stuff that I send them, but they never come or interact. So the stuff that I send them is going to be very price effective. It's going to be handwritten notes over a $4 calendar or a $2 newsletter every month. right? It's going to be cheaper, but they still refer me business. So they're not a C, but they're not an A, because A's refer you business. They interact with you. They come to things you invite them to. You'll go out to lunch with them. Like A's are like your mom and dad, your best friends, the people that are your cheerleaders, right? The more you guys lead generate, the more you're really looking for cheerleaders. Okay. And the reason why the sphere of influence is so important to understand too is that people you know, love, and trust, you should feel confident that if you know, love, and trust them and you work on the way you talk to them well, they think of you first when they think of real estate with their sphere of influence. You see, we have a sphere of influence, and our sphere of influence also has sphere of influences. So your one person that you have in your database, if they know 200 people and you you effectively brand yourself, you actually know 201 people indirectly, right? And so going through this and understanding what your sphere of influence is and how important it is, it'll set you apart, because that's where people don't understand. Like, I have people at Bruce, I only have like 75 people in my database. Okay, great. How many people in your database do you know, love, and trust? Well, out of 75, let's just throw it out there, right? I know 40 people in my database that I would consider as SOI. Well, on average, if those people know 75 people, how many is that? Or that they would consider, in their database. Let's call it 40, right? 40 times 40, 1,600 people, right? Yeah, 1,600. So I don't care how small your sphere of influence is. If you're not looking at a 40-person sphere of influence with a direct alignment with how many, people you have, or times that, you're looking at your database in a very micro way, but your database technically is about 1,600 people. So you need to understand that by working your sphere of influence effectively, you get to indirectly reach out to 1,600 people, but you got to do it right. You got to understand how to do it. Any questions on sphere of influence versus database versus kind of how to look and categorize? And actually, we probably should go into categories in just a little bit further. Okay, no questions so far. Cool. The way I defined mine was A, B, and C. And that's how I started. And then when it got bigger and bigger and bigger, I added an A+ category. And I'll tell you, the A+ category is still probably in the real estate commissions world. You see, one of my biggest pet peeves is I have a couple in real estate. We talked about the one yesterday. I can't stand that when the general public is so fed up with their agent and they want professional advice on how to get out of their contract with their agent, and we have limited license law practice to understand these contracts, we can't educate somebody on how to have a conversation with the agent they're listing with. Now, I get it on both fronts, right? Because as soon as you release that information, or as soon as you tell us we can do that, you're gonna have people that are malicious with it. So I get it on one aspect, but I hate that when the public wants us to help them get out of their contract with their agent, we can't even do that. That's pet peeve number one. Pet peeve number two is that you can have a cheerleader refer you 6 deals in 1 year, and you are not allowed to compensate them in any way, shape, or form for those referrals of anything of any value, right? Lunch, that's value. A $5 lottery ticket, that's value. You can't do it. And it's so frustrating to me. So the way that I quote unquote get around it is you take your people that refer you business, that you know, love, and trust, that are your cheerleaders, and you do special things for them, but all of them. See, that's the difference. If you do a one-to-one type of value thing for somebody that refers you business, that's a referral fee basically, and that's illegal. But if you take all of your people that refer you business out to a hockey game, not because of a referral they just gave you, but because they're an integral part of your business. You do it once a year, you do the same thing with those people. It's special to them, and they continue to be your cheerleader. So over time, I developed an A+ category. So that was my A+. You know, my parents, people that I saw on a weekly basis, and people that referred me business. A's were people that, if very likely to refer me business, or maybe they've even referred me leads but didn't pan out. People that I have no problem spending some money on, maybe just not the expensive client appreciation events. B's are, like was said earlier, they might be people that maybe have referred me business in the past, but I haven't for a year or two, don't really interact with me too much, but if I see them, it's like we're old buddies. C's are people I know, love, and trust just because I know them. I love them when I did meet them, and I trust them, but I don't see them, interact with them. These might be people like that, you know, live down in Colorado Springs. I still want to market to them. I still want to know that I can do real estate in all of Colorado. But if they wanted me to list their house, I'd probably refer it, right? Or they live in Colorado Springs, and I put them in my database or my sphere of influence because they, at one point in time, told me they want to get back up to Fort Collins to be closer to their grandkids. You know, people like that. So ABC was my way, and that's very similar to how I defined everything. Questions so far? Okay. So that's sphere of influence. Now we got to figure out, let's talk about, you know, I keep saying program or touches or things of that nature, right? And this is where we get a little bit of an eye opener. This is where, when I first started, we had what was called an 8x8 and a 33 touch. An 8x8 program was 8 touches over 8 weeks that you put a new database person on. And then from there, after 8 weeks, you decided whether they were going to go into your sphere of influence category or they were going to go into some other category. And then if you define them as a sphere of influence person, you would put them on a 33 touch program. And that was 33 touches over the course of a year. Now, let me ask you guys this. Before you got into real estate, or even right now, who do you interact with more than 33 times a year in your life? Anybody?
Friends.
Go ahead.
Family and very good friends.
Family and very good friends. Okay. How many people do you think that might be?
About 65.
That's healthy.
I'd say about 50.
That's extremely healthy too. Anybody else? Okay, but what we want to do is we want to understand some metrics around this, right? See, naturally speaking, they say that the human brain has the capacity to know, love, and trust about 150 people. That's capacity. On average, it's about half of that we actually do. But in real estate, you know, we educate you guys at least get 200 people in your database to start, hopefully meaning that about 100 of those are sphere of influence members. As you grow, we want your database to get to a couple thousand. So that way, hopefully, your sphere of influence is 500, 600, 700. You see, as you go throughout your career, you start off pretty lopsided with your database. Your database consists very much of your sphere of influence. And then as you go throughout this and you lead generate and you door knock and you meet people at open houses and you meet people just because of real estate, they became database members, but maybe not sphere of influence, right? And so over time, the amount of sphere of influence in your database kind of, you know, on a scale of things goes way down. Your database starts to be really big. So you're going to have a couple thousand people in your database that aren't in your sphere of influence. You
And
can
Bruce,
have,
just
go ahead.
I was just going to add on to that, Bruce, that when you grow that database like that, that becomes your lead generation source. All you're doing is calling your database. You're no longer cold calling. You have some connection with every single person you're calling in lead generation.
Yep. Once you grow your database, then every time you talk to your database, you're trying to figure out a way to convince yourself that they should be defined as sphere of influence. And then when they're sphere of influence, then they start to refer you business. Your database still refers you business, but it still might just be a lead check-in. It still just might be those types of things. They might not receive handwritten notes. They might only receive 4 quarterly calls. But yes, Carrie's right. Database has to grow 10x over the amount of people in your sphere of influence, because then your database will cultivate and then put other people in your sphere of influence. And on the flip side of things, unfortunately, you guys, how many of you guys have lost friends? How many of you guys still have the same exact sphere of influence that you had 10 years ago? Not many of us. So everything in sphere of influence starts to, have attrition too. And that's why your database constantly needs to pump more people into your sphere of influence. Okay. So going back to that, they say that we have the capacity to basically interact with people in an effective way, about 150 people, but on average, we do it at about 75. I would go through my mind right now, and I don't know if there's 75 people that I talk to and touch base with 33 times a year. It might be closer to like what Becky said, maybe 50, 40, 50, somewhere in there. So that's why we use CRMs, you guys. CRMs, that's why they're so important. If we psychologically know that we are going to have a hard time pulling 150 names or more than 150 names out of our head, we need something to remind our brain. We need something to be able to be our brain, so that way we can put in 500, 600, 700 people that we can define as a person we know, love, and trust, simply because when we see their name, we can start to correlate and see some notes. We start to remember what we put into our database. We start to remember their kids' names, right? How many of you guys have people in your world that you know, love, and trust, that you contact and see on a consistent basis throughout the year, but every time you see their kids, you can't remember their kids' names for the life of you? It's things like that that our CRMs help us with, right? Becky's smiling. We all do it. I mean, I do it with spouses all the time. I interact with one spouse or one person, and I don't see their spouses often, and I can't remember their gosh darn name. That's what CRMs do. So when we pick up the phone and we see that person's name in front of us, we see, oh, married to Sarah Smith, right? We always know their spouse's name, whether or not we could come up with it out of memory. Use the CRMs to your advantage. You have to do it. If you don't use a CRM, use a spreadsheet like a CRM. That's why it's so important, because it 10x's what our brains are capable of by themselves. Okay. 33 touch program. When I first started, that was the mantra. 33 touches or more a year, and your database will pump out leads and business to you. As they went along and as we go in this digital age, right, things are very in our face, right? I remember when Facebook changed their layout number of years back. There was an uproar in the social media community about how terrible it was and blah, 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 blah. Well, after they did that change, their user count went up like 2x in like a couple of months. It was all the people that just didn't like the change that were frustrated by it, because they had to learn something new. But the new interface actually allowed more people to want to be in Facebook. So it doubled their database by changing something in their database, right? Since the world became so in our face, I don't know if any of you guys have TikTok. I don't have it yet, but I watch people on it. It's in your face. I'm telling you, I watch people watching videos with their volume up all the time. I've never used to see that, right? You can't watch TikTok unless you have your volume up, because otherwise it's pointless. It's in our face, right? Every single website you go on, you got ads on the right and left side. So here's what they're realizing now. If you're not doing 42 touches or more a year, you're not effectively branding your database.
Mhm.
So,
And Bruce, just to add on to that, Facebook has databases of groups of consumers, right? Not every consumer is the same in their database. So they've done the same thing that we're talking about doing in the real estate market. They've done at Facebook. Different groups for different things. That's just how it works. And what you're talking about is sort of doing the same thing, but just with your real estate and your customer base.
bingo.
All your social media people should be into groups as well. I have 4 CRMs.
Yeah, exactly. And
They're-
honestly, the more CRMs you kind of have, the better. I mean, obviously you don't want too many that you can't manage, but not everybody, one of your Facebook friends is going to be in your command, and not every single person in your phone is going to be on Facebook. No, good, Ann, good. So 42 touches in 1 year. This is where I got clammy when I heard 33 touches in 1 year. I thought, nobody's going to get me to interact with my people 33 times a year. That's asinine. That's ridiculous. It works. Do it. Just get over yourself right now. I ended my career on a 42 touch program, and we're going to kind of go over that. And then we're going to move into kind of smart plans and how to use your CRMs effectively to help accomplish 42 touches in a year. We're going to talk about the math behind your year and how to add your database into it. You don't want to add your database to touch programs all on the same day. You want to do what they call a rollout, and we'll talk about that too. So 42 touches in a year. This is where I'm going to pick on Miss Brashears here. Her and I worked on her 42 touch program, and it's beautiful. It's very similar to what I used to use, and so I'm just going to pretend that it's mine, and we'll go over it today. But let me share this with you here, and we can send this out. It's on the resource page in the Google Drive. I can email it out, and then I'll share it with you guys on the Zoom call here too. All right. Can everybody see that? I know it's a little blurry. But what I really want you guys to do is I want you guys to notice the top. She's got A+, A's, B's, and C's. So I just really want you guys to focus on this A+ category. Okay, looking at all 4 columns can be complicated in our minds. But what I want you to look at is her A+ has 42 touches, her A's have 39, her B's have 37, her C's have 35. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. People in your sphere of influence may not be deemed worthy to have a ton of money spent on them, but are worthy enough to be in our sphere of influence to touch base with a very large amount of time per year, right? So let's look at the first column, 42 touch, A+. In January, she's going to send out annual statistics. And what I think she means by that is just, market statistics for the Denver market, or maybe it's throughout America, who knows, but it's statistics. And she gets to decide probably in December what that's going to look like. Is she going to do local statistics, or is she going to do national statistics? I think she's going to do statistics based upon a better interaction, right? I think she's going to do something that might be a little bit more controversial. Maybe she compares the Denver market to the national market, something that really gets people to, engage or maybe respond back to the statistics. Neighborhood nurture. That's the one time a month smart plan in command that does a neighborhood snapshot. It sends out an email to people that about their neighborhood. And then at the end of January, she's going to do a sign up to win a dozen roses or a box of chocolate for Valentine's Day. So one of the things that you'll notice is she's got her holidays planned out. You got to send that out in January because February 14th is Valentine's Day. You can't do it in February, right? Go on, keep going. You got the Rockies magnet. Those are magnets that she sends out and they put it on the fridge. But that's what you're going to notice is the first thing in there that only the A pluses get. Why do you think that is? It's because a magnet costs a couple bucks a piece to send to. Well, people that, aren't going to put it on their fridge, why send it to them? Her A pluses should, in theory, because they're defined as that, right? Go down to March, another green one here. St. Patrick's Day lottery ticket. So she's going to send out a lottery ticket. Now, even if it's $1 lottery ticket and you send it out to 100 people, that's $100. But for her A's and her B's in that same area, she has text for a chance to win a $20 lottery ticket. So out of maybe 300 people, she might be giving away 2 $20 lottery tickets or 1 $20 lottery ticket, who knows? But she effectively touches, say, 300 people, but only has to spend 20 or 40 bucks. Versus in her A plus category, she might have 50 people in there and spends $1 a piece, and now she's at 50. So you see how your touch program still has a chance to win a $20 lottery ticket, gets her name out there, they see her face, and she's giving away a $20 lottery ticket. If I'm in her database, I'm probably going to text her for a chance to win. And I'm not going to be butthurt that she didn't send me a $1 lottery ticket. So when you're going through and you're thinking about how to touch base with your sphere of influence, you need to make sure that you go through and it's cost effective. You got to balance your budget with this thing. Because if you don't, you will start to spend a lot of money on people who do not deserve to have money spent on them. Okay, so same thing in May. Her A plus, she's gonna give out flower seeds to her A plus people, but her A's and B's, she's going to text for a chance to win a $20 gift card to the flower bin. So same concept, you see. In June, it looks like she's going to invite her database of A plus and A's to an event, but her B's and C's are going to receive a scheduled event for 4th of July fireworks. That's probably through email form. Yeah, it is through email form. So over here on the right-hand side, she has it color-coded into what that looks like. So she's going to run an in-person event for her A pluses and A's, but she's going to send out an email to her B's and C's. Still touching everybody, but not spending the money. I really want to hit home on that because Harry's very good at budgets. He understands the nature behind them and why. And this is a great example of why. I cannot thank Melissa enough for sharing this with me. This is one of the best touch programs I've seen. Now let's go through and let's talk. I think everybody gets this, right? Okay. Tell me on here, how many times out of 42 touches do you see real estate? Not very often, right? And see, when I first started in real estate and somebody told me I need to interact with people 33 times a year because I'm a real estate agent now, I thought it had to be around real estate, which made me clammy because I didn't want to talk to people 33 times a year about real estate. I was going to be that Mary Kay rep that everybody runs and hides from. I was going to be that Avon lady that everybody runs and hides from, right? Because that's what I thought they meant by this touch program. So let's go through here. Out of 42 touches, she has, I'll even count neighborhood nurture. So there's 12. I'll do fall home maintenance checklist as real estate. There's 13.
The CMA in June.
Yep, 14. App download, 15. 16.
She's creating name recognition,
maintenance.
and the other time she's still creating name recognition, right? Because they know who she is because she's in real estate. Because 15 times during the year, she reminded them she's in real estate.
Bingo. Harry knows exactly where I'm going. So you have about 15 things that relate to real estate, and all the other things on there, Melissa's going to be methodical about still branding herself as a real estate agent. So when she sends out, Rocky's scheduled magnet, right? When she sends that out, that magnetic schedule is going to have the Rockies on it, but it's going to have her business card somewhere at the top. Melissa Brashears, Kelly Williams. When she does her handwritten notes, so in April she does a handwritten note. I don't know what Melissa does, but when I used to do it, you can get return envelope stickers, and when you fill it out online where it says first name, last name, my first name was my last name was realtor, and then my address. You see, I don't need them to see Bruce Carley. They're going to see Bruce Carley in the card itself. I want them to see realtor on the outside. So that way the inside of the card doesn't have to do anything with real estate, but the card still brands itself to me being in real estate, right? So every single touch on here will have some sort of real estate piece to it. Melissa Brasher is realtor, or your realtor, or something, right? Her emails have email signatures. Every single touch on here will remind somebody that she's in real estate, but not every touch on there. And the majority, 3/4 of the touches are not even real estate related. That's the epiphany that I want you guys to understand. If you are not doing, I'll say it, you guys need to do a 42 touch or more. But even if you're shy, if you're bashful, if you think I'm full of crap, do a 33 touch or more. But do not deviate from it. You got to do that. It's just like what we were talking about in scripts and morning huddle today. Never, ever, ever deviate from your lead generation schedule, ever, unless there's an emergency or you have to. And even if you have to, is Lori still on here? What do you do, Lori, never mind. What does anybody do if, let's say that you have a you're lead generating on Monday, you land $1 million listing on Thursday, and they can only meet during the hours of your lead generation schedule. You're going to go on that listing appointment, but you're going to erase and replace your lead generation hours. So if you're going to go on a listing appointment at 9 a.m., then you're going to lead generate from 2 to 4 versus 9 to 11, right? Erase and replace, but nothing deviates from this schedule of events. And here's what I really want you guys to hear. Out of my entire career, when I look back at all of my metrics, and I finally did it because I kept saying like 83, 85, 93. Every year I was in the 80s to very low 90s percentage of closings that came from my sphere of influence versus my secondary lead generation source. And that's a staggering number to me. And so I went through all of my closings and I went through every single year, and the average that I closed was 87% of my business came from my sphere of influence. 87%, you guys. So in the height of my career, my best year ever was 51. 51 times 0.87. I had 44.87. So let's call 44 or 45 closings. That one year, 44 closings from my sphere of influence, you guys. I really want you guys to hear that over and over again. Go ahead.
And I think it's important, Bruce, for them to also hear that when you moved here, you didn't know anybody. right? So
Yeah.
when people think, well, you have a big sphere of influence because you knew a lot of people. Well, actually you didn't. And it's how you built that to become that so that it would generate those kind of numbers.
Bingo. My first year in real estate, I did 37 deals. That year, my sphere of influence, I knew one person, and they're also in real estate. So they weren't really my sphere of influence. That year, I closed 37 deals off of open houses, door knocking, cold calling, and networking events. I hated cold calling and door knocking. Once I realized that it was a necessary evil to do around open houses, I ended up loving cold calling and door knocking because it made my open houses so much more effective. Because when I was out door knocking, I wasn't lead generating; I was just advertising an open house. When I was cold calling, I wasn't lead generating. I was advertising for an open house. That was my mindset. I even got leads out of it. I got more people to my open house. But better yet, you guys, because I took the pressure off myself to try and get a lead and just advertise an open house, I got database members. So my first year, and I teach this to you guys all the time, focus on the growth of your database and leads will just come. Your scripts will ask for leads. Your focus needs to be on database entry. And so I did that. And here's what happened, you guys. My first year, I closed a ton of people that were from leads. So I'm very good at getting leads off of leads. And you guys know my car script, right? I make my leads understand that when they're going through the process of looking for a home or they're thinking about buying a home, they're going to see other people in their world that want to also think about something in real estate. And that script right there, remember how I said if you have one person in your database, or if you have 40 people in your database, and those 40 people know 40 people, there's 1,600 people. When you give them the triggers in their life to think about their database, they're going to do it for you. So my car script is, hey, what kind of car do you drive? Oh, great. Have you seen that car on the road more today than you did before than you bought that car? 100% of the time, people say yes, you guys. It's a psychological thing. We all do it. You can use that. You'll infiltrate your database and you'll get there. So out of those 37 closings my first year coming out to Colorado with one person in my database, I had to figure out how to get leads off of leads because I started working with so many leads. I was doing my lead generation, but I didn't have any sphere of influence to talk to. So all I did was cold call, door knock, open houses, networking events. And then once that started to build a database of leads and pipelines and stuff like that, then I could call leads. And I realized leads, boy, real estate was on their mind. They got me leads. That's why getting this traction in real estate is so important. Your first couple of deals, you have to work by the book. You have to do it by the book. If you don't ask for business from leads that you start working with, they're not going to give you leads. Becky's got a great opportunity right here. She had 3 people that were potential leads fall off. She's got a delicate timeline right now. In a couple of months, real estate's not going to be on their mind because they chose not to. But right now, real estate's on their mind. Work those people effectively. Give them the car script. Let them know that you enjoyed working with them thus far. And just because certain circumstances came up in their life does not mean you're upset by not being able to work with them. What it means, Mr. and Mrs. Potential Buyer, is that real estate's still on your mind. And would you do me a favor as you rent throughout this entire year? Would you think about people in your life that have questions about real estate? And would you send them to me? Because I want to help them just like I'm helping you. And I want them to know that I'm low pressure, just like I was with you. That's why I've got no problem with you going in and renting for another year. Because while you're renting for another year, mark my words, you're going to run into somebody that's going to be looking to do something in real estate. Would you do me that favor? And they will do it every time. Now, some will do it, meaning they'll think about you, but you may not get a lead from them that first year. But you talk to your sphere like that year over year over year, your phone doesn't stop ringing after year 3, 4, and 5. But you got to continue to do it. You got to continue to ask for that business. Okay. So your database, I'm This is why we're doing this class again and again and again. I watch a lot of you guys really put a lot of effort into your secondary lead generation source. That is secondary. It comes after your sphere of influence. You have to work your sphere of influence effectively. You have to have them on touch programs because there's no reason not to, you guys. It's not nerve-wracking to call your mom. It's nerve-wracking to call a stranger in my world. So if I get my sphere of influence built up, it's not nerve-wracking anymore. Lead generation is fun. Real estate gets me out golfing at noon, and I can take the entire day off because I did my job in the morning. And whether or not my sphere of influence actually talked to me on the phone, they saw my name come up on their phone. They heard my voicemail. They saw my handwritten note in the mail. They saw my email invitation to a pool party. That's why it's so important. Got to hit home on that. 87% of all of my closings came from my sphere of influence or people that I already interacted with, not people I just interacted with. Okay. So we talked about the touch program. We talked about sphere of influence. We talked about how to define that. We talked about how to break down your sphere of influence, right? Now, I want to kind of go through so we showed you a graph or a chart, and that looked overwhelming because there's a lot of line items. So this is where I want you guys to get your pen and paper out. This is where I want you guys to put notes on your computer. This is anybody watching the video. I want you guys to hit the pause button right now and go grab a pen and paper. I'll be honest, I'm an electronic guy. I hardly use paper. This is something that you probably better write down on your piece of paper. All right. There's two ways to kind of tackle how you want to start to develop your 42 touch program. Okay. I think first and foremost, we need to understand that there are better ways to touch your sphere than others. Okay. First, at a very minimum, everybody in your database. Well, it's a trick question, so I'm gonna pick on Becky here. In your database, what's one thing that every single person has?
An email address.
Do they though? Like every single person? Because I know some old people out there that don't.
Oh, okay. A phone number. Not everybody.
Okay.
A name. They all have a name.
Ah, dang it! You stumped me on the recording. They
Not
have
sure
a
what
name.
you're looking for.
They have a birthday.
Oh, there you go. Yes, they have that too.
Right. So, and you're not wrong. They all have a name. I really actually like that answer. I've never had anybody say that to me. They have a birthday, right? And a birthday is a reason to do a touch. So now we're down to 41 touches. Okay. Now let me just pull it open here. In Command, you guys, the birthday campaign is already built for you. You don't even have to build that smart plan. So we got birthday. Now, what do you think is more effective? A call, a text, or an email when you're talking to your sphere of influence? It's a call. Don't second guess yourself. It might be easier to text somebody, but the most effective is a phone call. And that brings up a delicate balance in our industry, right? I see a lot of us wanting to get through things. Where's Sherry Hetch? She's on here, isn't she? We had this epiphany the one day. Our job to be effective is not the same as most jobs. Most jobs, in order to be effective, you need to be efficient. In this job, there's only certain areas in our business where where effective is efficient, right? Or I'm sorry, efficient is effective. Calls, even though they take more time than a mass amount of text, they're more important because they're more impactful. So we got birthdays, and then here's the next one. You want 4 calls per year. So once per quarter. Another very effective piece is handwritten notes. In my business, I did those 2 times a year. So biannual. Now, I want to define handwritten notes. Handwritten notes was a one-to-one note from me to them talking about them or me. Handwritten note was not defined as a holiday card. Even if I put my handwriting in it, it's about the holiday and not a one-to-one interaction between us. So my handwritten notes would go out usually in the late winter, early spring. So let's call it February, March, because nobody's getting notes in that time of year, right? Everybody gets notes around the holidays and around their birthdays. So then I timed it up to where they would get their second note about 6 months later. So call it June, July, August, September, somewhere in there before, October, November, December starts again. So we're up to 7 touches like that. This is where it goes a little quicker now. You saw on Melissa's thing, she has that neighborhood or market update, the market snapshot. That's an email once a month. There's 12. Something that my business used to do is I would do a recipe of the month. There's another 12. So there's 24 emails in a year. That's why you guys don't cop out at 33 touches. It's too easy to do 33 touches anymore because of the automation through email and stuff. So that's kind of where my business landed. Those were like those non-negotiables. The 24 emails a month, that was easy. The snapshot just goes out. And before we had the snapshot tool, you guys, I just did a simple one-page newsletter. And it was like, I'll be honest with you, it was simply like 3 little paragraphs. I did Longmont, Denver, and National, just brief market statistics. And it wasn't even like statistics. It was just like sentences around statistics. That was it. My newsletter was super simple, but it was still 24 touches in a year. Once a month, it was the recipe of the month. And once a month, it was the newsletter. But once we got the market snapshot, I went to that because that's more effective than the newsletter was. The recipe of the month. All I did was kind of look at what month it was and think, what can it hurt? So it's June. People are grilling. I would probably look up some sort of stuffed burger recipe. I would probably look up something with grilling, smoking, or something outdoors, right? How to effectively grill sweet corn. There's a lot of people in this world that have never had grilled sweet corn. There's a lot of people in this world that have grown up on it, though, that might learn a new technique around how to do it, right? I grew up with sweet corn grilled. One of the things that I don't think my family used, I mean, I was pretty young, but we soaked our sweet corn in a bucket of water. What I've learned is if you take the little top off, you take the little top and you cut it down a little bit and you dump a little bit of salt in the water, it soaks up some water. It makes it so juicy and so sweet and salty all at the same time. It's beautiful. But those little techniques are what I would post on my recipes. And what you do is you track, what did you do all year long, and don't reinvent the wheel. If I did stuffed burgers one year, then I might do something with burgers the following year. I might do how to make, the last one was smash burgers. I don't know if any of you guys have looked up smash burgers. You need to make some smash burgers in your life. Those things are amazing. But you go through and you start to realize that this isn't hard. It's overwhelming to think about 33 touches, but in one fell swoop, right there, Becky, there's 24 touches, 2 emails. And they're pretty well automated or in a mass send out, right? The rest of my touches, you guys, came from when I said, hey, get a piece of paper out. We're going to talk about 2 kind of areas of how to get your database set or your touch program set up. Those are the ones that are easy. Those are the ones that go every month, that everybody has a birthday, and there's once a quarter you do phone calls, twice a year you do handwritten notes. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one. And then twice a year, I would try and do what we call a pop by, POP-BY, pop by. I'm going to pop by their house. Now, I like pop buys that are random. I don't like to talk to people for longer than I need to. And so most of the time, I didn't mind that somebody didn't open up their door. But here's what I had with me, okay? Pop buy gifts. Pop buy gifts are super simple, super cheesy, and you can do it in a couple of different ways, okay? A pop buy gift, I would have a pizza cutter. So you go to Dollar Tree, they have Betty Crocker pizza cutters for $1. They have a little hole at the end of it, and you put some ribbon around it, and you put a little thing on it that says, "No matter how you slice it, I appreciate your continued support in my business." And then what you would have is you would have another card that wouldn't be attached to it. And so if they're not home, you put that other card on it. It says, "Hey, I was just in your neighborhood and I really was thinking about you. Sorry I missed you. Hope you have a great evening." And you just lay the pizza cutter on their porch with that memo, right? If you knocked on the door and you saw them, then put that card in your pocket that says, "Hey, I'm sorry I missed you," right? Put it in your pocket, but you at least still have the pizza cutter. Now, I, for one, did not read my cheesy little statement to people. I wouldn't be like, "Hey, I was just in the neighborhood, thought I'd pop by because no matter the way you slice it, I appreciate your continued support." I wouldn't say what the card said. I said, "Hey, I got a little token of appreciation for you. It's a little, gimmick gift. How's life? What's going on? How was your day at work?" I don't really mean to invite myself in. I really simply just wanted you to know that I was just kind of in the area and I just wanted to stop by and say hi. And I honestly, I got to get going here in a few minutes to my next place, but I really just wanted you to know I was thinking about you. Twice a year, you will you guys see this trifecta happening? You got 4 calls to them a year. You see them maybe twice a year on their doorstep, but maybe not. Maybe you just leave it on their doorstep every time. And then they get a handwritten note from you. That trifecta right there, no other real estate agent is doing to them. You are their sole source for real estate. So at a bare minimum, that's what you have to do. Do those things. Then add in those emails. But Bruce, if those other things are so effective, why then do we need those emails? We need those emails so that way your contact information is always somewhere they can find it. You see, a handwritten note is impactful and it might go on their desk for a little bit, but I'll be honest with you. I mean, I save handwritten notes, but it's got to be kind of impactful. All my other handwritten notes, they'll get set on my desk for a little bit and then they'll go in a box. But your contact info is not on it. With a pop by gift, your contact info is not on it. With a phone call, your contact info is not on it. It's just in their phone, right? So all of those things are the ways to make sure you brand yourself effectively. The other methods are so they always have your contact info and always think of you in times that you don't interact. If you do a quarterly call, that means there's 4 more months that they don't really interact with you. So they need to have those emails as supplements to see your name all the time. How many of you guys see McDonald's commercials? Right? All the time. Now, how many of you guys eat McDonald's all the time? Besides Derek. Derek, this dude, he comes into the office all the time with McDonald's. I'm just seeing if he's paying attention. He's probably not. So let me go through this little exercise, and I got to call everybody out. I mean, we got one person on video, and so instead of calling her out, I'm gonna mastermind with her, and I'm gonna call everybody else out. Becky, have I went through the 3 branding questions about fast food or potato chips or sodas?
No.
Okay, good. Then I'm going to use you because I think some of you guys in here have heard this. So they did a study. And when I say study, I believe that it was like in like a Midwest like mall. But they had people fill out these cards. And they said, and each question had, there was 3 questions. And they had to write down their top 3 things. So when I ask you this question, Becky, do not get creative. I need first that comes to your mind. As soon as you get creative, it doesn't work.
Okay.
All right. First things that come to your mind. 3 fast food restaurants, go.
Popeyes, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut.
Perfect. 3 sodas, 3 brands of sodas, go.
Pepsi, Coke, 7-Up.
3 brands of potato chips, go.
Doritos, Cheetos, Pringles.
Cool. So the only one, and it's probably because I said McDonald's, everything else you got. Cheetos that's Lay's. So I was looking for brands, but that's okay because you still.
And I thought of that and I don't know those. Lay's and what else?
Right. Bingo, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So 99% of people that responded to those cue cards put on their McDonald's, Coke, and Lay's. That was one of 3 answers for 99% of people was that. Then they followed up with that and they said, well, now tell us how many times a month or a year or something like that, do you consume these products? And it was very low, right? Maybe 1 time a month. But see what it is that those brands come to mind because their marketing scheme has programmed our brain to think of them first, second, or third in people's lives. So that's staggering to me, right? Because I've never had Lay's pick up the phone and give me a call. I've never had it. Becky, have you had McDonald's call you to invite you over to their restaurants?
No.
But they brand us. We think about them. McDonald's will never, ever, ever change their golden arches. Ever. You guys think about what a golden arch looks like. Don't you guys think that looks really 70s and 80s-esque? If you really look at it, it looks 70s and 80s-esque, right? They're never going to change that. Coca-Cola may shift a few things, but that cursive lettering is there to stay, right? Lay's. Anybody go to King Supers lately? They got Lay's retro bag. And if you look at the Lay's symbol, it has not changed much. It's changed a little bit, but it has not changed much to today. Especially their yellow, plain old original potato chips. That bag is very similar. But you guys, they branded us and they've never, will they? What'd you say? Will they? Christine, are you on here? Yeah, this is being recorded. Yeah, we'll have the recording up on the YouTube page. So branding, that's what your sphere of influence touch campaign is doing. So if you want to be number 1, 2, or 3 in people's heads, do this. Becky, top 5 internet browser systems, go.
Google, Safari. I don't know.
Come on, you got a third in you, don't you?
I don't.
Perfect. If you're not number 1, 2, or 3, you're last. If you're not number 1, 2, who in the right mind refers? If you have a friend, who in their right mind refers 4 agents? You might get a friend to refer 2 agents to you, right? In rare instances, I can see the third, but that person probably is a lender, right? That person probably is in title. That person's probably related to our industry some way, shape, or form to know that you can rattle off 3 agents' names and phone numbers. Most people can't rattle off 1. So we need to be number 1 or 2 that our database refers. We need to be that person. We need to be the Google or Safari. We have to be the McDonald's, Coke, or Lay's, you guys. Your touch program does that. That's how it does that. But here's what you guys get to add on to it. You actually get to call them. McDonald's doesn't call me, right? Derek, when's McDonald's call you last time? Besides like call your name by you see in the Golden Arches, right? It doesn't happen. We get the luxury of branding like those multi-million-dollar companies get to brand, but we also have such an intimate relationship with our sphere of influence that we get to call, handwritten note, and pop by them too. So we will be number one in people's heads if we do this and run this effectively. Mark my words. You still, in this world, I don't even think you want to be number two. Because why in the world would you want your sphere of influence to refer two agents to people? Because then you're always in competition. Make sure you're number one, and there's no reason for them to say the second name. That's what this is what it's all about. Okay. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to take your piece of paper and you want to write down the 12 months in a year. And now I encourage you to try and come up with something that is monthly related or, seasonally related. So we already have, if you do a recipe of the month, if you do I know somebody that used to send out the joke of the month. If you do a newsletter, the joke of the month, the recipe of the month, whatever, you do a combination. There's 24 touches right there. Now add on 4 calls, 28. Add on 2 pop buys, 30. Add on 2 handwritten notes, 32. Add on a birthday. Boom. There's your 33. That's why they used to call it 33. Now we do 42 touches, right? So how are we going to do that? So if we're at 33, we need to get up to 42. We need about 9 more touches. So out of the months in a year, I encourage you to figure out how you're going to get 9 more touches. If you look back at Melissa's, I feel like I'm yelling. I'm getting real into this one because your sphere of influence makes you a ton of money. I'm talking boatloads of money. Becky, are you in this to make money, or are you in this to help people buy homes?
I'm in it to be social and to help people.
You don't want money?
Well, of course that would help.
But if there was no money attached to it, would you have still chosen to get your license and do this full time?
No.
Cool.
No.
Your sphere of influence has boatloads of money. They're just willing to give to you, like in stacks. Actually, it's like checks nowadays, but think about piles of money. They're just willing to give it to you. But we got to brand them effectively. It's incredible how this works. So take your months out of the year and find 9 reasons. Let's see what Melissa used. All right. So Melissa went through and she did sign up to win a dozen roses, right? So that's January to February. Now in February, she sent out a Rocky scheduled magnet because that's more spring related than it is any sort of 1 month. I mean, I guess you'd call it 1 month because if you want to try and get it out there by opening day. St. Patrick's Day in March. It doesn't look like there's anything in April. Maybe you could call it the event information, but nothing in there. Spring flowers, bring May showers, or what is that? April showers, bring May flowers. There you go. I know what I'm talking about. She gives out flower seeds in May, right? So go through there. Pumpkin carving contest, pumpkin pie giveaway, holiday activities. You can find 9 things in here for sure. Go through and get strategic, right? Lottery tickets, luck of the Irish. Send out an email that says text my number, text me this, text me, St. Patty's Day 2021 for a chance to enter to win a $50 lottery ticket or blah, 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 blah. Get creative. I'm not going to go into it much further on this call. If you want to mastermind around what that looks like, call your peers, call Becky, call Derek, get together as a group, start to think about it. The same things that Melissa does, you can do too, because your sphere of influence is different. But what happens, Bruce? What happens if Melissa and Becky both have the same group of friends? May the best woman win. Brand to them. Who cares? They don't care if they get 2 rocky schedules in the mail. One of you guys will stop sending rocky schedules and the other one will. Who can use their scripts better? May the best woman win. Don't freak out about other agents marketing to your database. I got plenty of people that bought and sold houses with me. I go over to the listing appointment, and whose magnet do they have on the fridge? Somebody else's. But I can't get upset. They called me. And here's what it is. Most people that send out those magnets, most people that touch their database, they do it in those ways in which their contact info is put up. And that works effectively. But that doesn't work against Bruce because I'm making phone calls, pop buys, handwritten notes. You see, I'll tell you, one of the hardest things in my business to put into my daily schedule or put into my life was pop buys. Those take forever, you guys. You're in the car, you're driving to this town, that town, the other town. Sometimes you get invited in for a beer. Sometimes you get, sitting there talking to them about their neighbors on the front porch for 20 minutes. Pop buys are brutal, but you got to do them. And if you understand what your sphere of influence is, and you understand that only the A's, maybe B's, or A pluses and A's are going to get the actual pop buys, the rest of your database might get something else. So the next phase of everything that we're talking about is build out your master touch program. All right. By master, this is what I mean, right? Your master touch program is 42 touches over here, but 35 only go to the C's. So get your master built out and then start to funnel out from there. So that way you're not trying to pop by 500 people's houses. You're trying to pop by that 150 to 200. What are some other things you can think of if you decide this person is not worthy of a pop by? What else can you think about? Well, here, I'll just give you guys the easiest one. You pop by, you say, hey, look, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by because I was thinking about you. Well, you had planned on stopping by the neighborhood, right? So now on maybe your B's and C's, when that task comes up to maybe go, do a B category pop by, you text them and you say, hey, what's up? It's Bruce. I was just in your neighborhood showing some homes. Apologize I wasn't able to stop by and say hi, but I was thinking about you as I drove past your subdivision. It impacts them like a pop by, you guys. Maybe not as much, but at least they think that you were thinking about them. I used to use an automated text for that, and I got into a pickle one time because all of a sudden I am at I don't know where I'm at, but I'm at some place with somebody and they get a text message that said, hey, what's up? I was just going through your neighborhood. It was awful. It was hilarious and awful. And it was a guy that I talk to all the time and he understands it. I told him, I was like, yeah, it is what it is. He just started laughing and said, it's sales, man. Don't worry about it. He's like, I think that's cool. So be careful. I started sending them out manually. It's pretty easy to do. You take a look at your list and then you type up your text and then you just copy and paste it to like 7 people that came up through your command to-do list that day. Questions so far? Okay, perfect. Let's jump over to command. Again, this class and this training is all about what it is. I'm not going to sit here and build out a 42 touch program for you, but I really do want you guys to understand and know that a lot of this stuff is already in here, right? My home anniversary, we didn't even talk about that. Once you start selling people homes, they need to go into your sphere of influence. After you sell them a home, one of their touches throughout that next year is going to be a home anniversary task. My birthday. This is the one I want to. Here's your birthday task. It's simply built out for you. You assign somebody to that task, and then it'll show up, and you can manipulate when it does and how it gets there. A quarterly call campaign. So those are my smart plans. You can go to a library. You guys, there's people that have created all sorts of touch campaigns for you guys. An 8x8 new contact engagement. What did I say at the beginning of this class? I did an 8x8 and a 33 touch. Here's an 8x8 already built out for you. You would go into it, look at it. By look at it, you go into the steps and you see, is this something that I would like to use for my business? If it is, add smart plan, right? Bi-weekly neighborhood nurture. I use a monthly neighborhood nurture. I don't do a bi-weekly. Who might you think you might do a bi-weekly neighborhood nurture on? Probably a seller who tells you they're about to sell in the next 3 months. They need that email more often because they're attentive to the market. They're thinking about it. They're watching their solds. Send it to them on a more often basis. What did I say? One of the most important things you can do in your touch campaign. It's your 4 quarterly calls. Boom, quarterly call campaign. View steps. Look good? Look good. Add smart plan. I bet you anything, because this is why you guys, I always tell people this. I am not rah Keller Williams. I'm just not. The best brokerage for me is the brokerage that has what I need. I am 1000% pro Keller Williams because I've never seen another brokerage do stuff like this. This is from people shared by mega agents who say, look, I'm making my millions. I'm paying my admin staff 50 grand a year to do my stuff for me. I didn't have to waste my time to do it. I spent money on it. You know what? I'm going to give back to our real estate community. Hey, admin, go ahead and share these touch programs to everybody in Keller Williams. So that way we can make it easier on new agents. We can make it easier on solo agents who don't have admin staff. It's incredible what you can find, you guys, in this thing. It's unreal. You got, I mean, it looks like you can't go any further. What's new? See all. Final December email for 42 touch. I'm intrigued. What is that? Right? Monthly newsletter. I'm intrigued. Top rated. You guys, these are our agents are rating how they view these touch programs and how effective they feel like they are. Anybody ever heard of R&D? Right? Research and development. Yeah. Well, we have something else in real estate. I call R&D. Rip off and duplicate. All right? Rip this crap off. There's so many people, and the reason why I'm getting on this tangent is because the last time I did this Sphere of Influence touch program, we went through a lot of like how to build out your touch programs, and nobody did it. That video is still sitting there in the video library. Not very many people touch it. And what I realize is because just like me, people want stuff. And I didn't go through the basics of the library. The library is incredible. Use it. All right. So anybody who's struggling with how to do a touch campaign or whatever, start using these things. Now, here's what you're going to notice. You're going to notice that what you just saw, nothing said full 42 touch program. So here's where we're going to end this class. A couple things, right? Your 42 touch program is not one smart plan. Please make sure you know that. Your 42 touch program is not one smart plan. Your 42 touch program should be, well, let's just, and Becky, I really appreciate you on video. I don't really care if you're not. I'm going to pick on you. I'm going to pick on anybody. But I feel like I'm talking to you, you know? So, Becky, in a perfect world, the program that you and I just built is going to have multiple smart plans. You're going to have people on a quarterly call. There's one smart plan. A birthday smart plan. Boom. A neighborhood nurture. Boom. You guys can set up smart plans for yourself. That's just reminders, right? The quarterly call system is a reminder program. Set up a reminder to send out your recipe of the month. Boom, 4 smart plans. Send, what else? We didn't even talk about this. People that are married, they got anniversaries. People that bought their home, they have anniversaries, right? You set them up. Your touch program is going to have multiple smart plans to effectively accomplish your 42 touch program. Do not look for that magical unicorn that you think that there might be a 42 touch program in its entirety. The system is not built that way because it shouldn't be that easy. That means you're following the same plan that every other Keller Williams agent's having. That's why I'm telling you, go through the calendar and find your 9, 10, 11, 12 events that you're going to do. If you guys talk to the Mike Nelson team, the last time I checked, they're doing a 56 touch program. The Wise team, 56 touch program. Okay. You guys can do more than that. If you guys have trouble with smart plans, reach out to our tech ambassador, Ryan. He'll help you figure out how to work them. Go to Marty Miller's 66-day challenge, and how to do a smart plan is in there. You guys go to YouTube and Google how to do a smart plan in Command Keller Williams. There's multiple videos. I'm telling you, I'm pro Keller Williams because you got people like me that just want to give back. I wish I could just brain dump everything in my brain that I learned in these past 7 years to every single one of you guys. Now, I wouldn't make any money doing that, right? I make money to coach you and train you and push this stuff to your brain. But if I could, I would. We are so giving, and I don't believe enough of us reach out to get what they want. And I think a lot of us expect the market center to just give us that. It takes your proactive nature. Just like I'm not going to pick up the phone and call and do lead generation for you. You got to search Google. You got to search Connect, Command, all of those things. You'll find what you're looking for. I've really never, ever had to create anything. I just R&D everything. I got 2 mantras, right? Rip off and duplicate. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Right? So do those things. Now, what I want to kind of talk to you about and end with here is the next piece. The thing that I don't think I mentioned enough in the last Sphere of Influence training video. You guys, we're going to have 2 very good Sphere of Influence training videos. The next piece is when you're starting to set people up on smart plans, all right, you really need to work through your year. All right, so there's 365 days in a year. Oh, crap, my earbuds are done.
We can't hear you, Bruce.
Can't hear you, Bruce.
How about now?
Yes.
Yep.
Sweet. All right, you better charge, buddy. There's 365 days in a year. I don't want you to work 365 days in a year. If you work 365 days in a year, mark my words, you will not make it to year 2. So we need to take out the weekends at a very minimum. There's 52 weeks in a year, 2 weekend days a year. There's 104 days. So now where are we at? 261 days in a year. I don't know about you guys, but I like to take vacation. I like to take 3-day weeks. I get sick. I have days where I don't want to do jack crap. So how many days in a year do you think we effectively should look at lead generating? I like easy, you guys. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off another 61 days. 200. There you go. Yeah. So if you have 200 days in a year that you're going to effectively lead generate. Now, break that down into quarters, because I think my 42 touch program is simply based upon quarters because of that quarterly call. So if you have 200 days in a year, 200 working days in a year divided by 4 quarters, that's 50 days in a quarter that you're going to lead generate on average, right? On average. Sometimes, you guys, I don't do my tasks the day that it says I should do it. Sometimes I got more time the next day. I'm on here with you guys from 8 to 11-ish. We're gonna get done a little early. From 8 to 11-ish, and I'm gonna go golf all afternoon. I don't want to do anything the rest of it. I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna answer your guys' question. I'm gonna review contracts from my phone, but I'm not gonna get in any lead generation today. I still lead generate. I don't lead generate through my sphere. I lead generate for agents thinking about getting into the business. I'm not gonna be able to do that today, but my CRM is gonna tell me I need to. So I'm gonna do it all tomorrow. Or if I'm a good business owner, which is what I tried to do yesterday, I got some of my tasks done for today. I got it done yesterday. I didn't get all. So I'm gonna have a little bit of makeup tomorrow, but I took some pressure off my plate by doing it yesterday. So 50 weeks, or I'm sorry, 50 days in a quarter. Becky, how many people do you have in your database or your sphere of influence? These are white words on roughly.
I think it's 74.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but only through my computer. I had no idea the audio went there. So hope you guys yell at me. I don't want the recording to like just cut out. You guys are just staring at me. So how many people do you have?
I think 74.
74. All right. So there's 50 working days in the quarter. So what you would do is you take 74 divided by 50, and you need to talk to 1.5 people a day in your sphere of influence. So if your goals say I need to talk to 20 people a day, then every single day, 2 of those people should be your database or your sphere of influence. And then you should need to go out and find the other 18. That's how you get your 20. So see how that works? Now, the key is, Becky, once you get your quarterly call, touch program, smart plan into your command, you only going to add 2 people a day to that smart plan. Do not add all 74 people to it, because here's what happens. 3 months from now, you're going to have in one day, your command is going to probably blow up, because it's going to say, hey, Becky, you have 74 tasks today. You're going to go, 74 tasks? What? It's because the biggest mistake I see people do is they get a touch program or a smart campaign ready, and then they add their entire sphere of influence on it, all in the same swoop. So you got to work through the numbers. Take your database, divide it by, honestly, you guys could use 50 or 60. Some people might not take 61 days off in a year, right? So use 50 days, use 60 days, I don't care. Divide that by your database, and then bam, that's your task. When you get started, and a lot of you guys are getting started in real estate right now, take that number and add 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, whatever number that is per day to your quarterly calls. And then as Becky adds people to her database, or I'm sorry, her sphere of influence, then she might go and she might need to add 3 people a day. And what you need, remember what Harry said at the beginning of class. He said, once you do this over and over and over again, and you build your sphere of influence up in your database to a robust number, you don't have to go out and find those other 18 people. You see, your command just tells you have 22 phone calls to make today. Hey, Bruce, you have 13 phone calls to make, 7 handwritten notes to do, and 2 pop buys. Go. Your lead generation is just simply right there in your database. But the number one mistake I see people do is they put everybody on the touch campaigns at once, or they're like, yeah, I can put 25 on today and 20. You don't. You're going to screw yourself. 2 a day for Becky for the first 3 months. And then here's what happens. If she puts somebody on the quarterly call campaign on January 1st, those exact same 2 people are going to come up on a task for her to call them on April 1st. That's why it's so important to only add the amount of people you have in your database to the amount of days you're going to work in the quarter, because then you're going to call them 4 times a year like clockwork. The coolest part too is, you guys, is I don't work the weekends. So I know that my business I need to go Monday through Wednesday and just do those tasks. I just want to get through my day. Thursday, Friday, I'm looking at how can I get my Thursday, Friday tasks done as well as the weekend tasks done so I can go into the next week effectively. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys, and we're going to end this recording if we don't have anything. Becky, you took yourself off mute.
No, I was just gonna say, I tried setting up my smart plans. How do I know that they're working? Because it looked like I sent out 74 birthday messages in one day, but I didn't because I called my contacts and they didn't get it. How do I know that it's working? Just set myself up on one?
Yes, that's
Okay.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Every single thing that you do, set yourself up on it first and wait and watch it run.
Okay.
So if I set myself up on a quarterly call, I would try and set myself up on a quarterly call to hit or to start like 2 days from now, and then 2 days from now, see if it hits. So that way you can run through it. Now, when you say that you think it sent out 74 birthday things, that would be where I would get with Ryan, our tech ambassador, and go through and see, are you reading it wrong, or is there a glitch in the system? Or he can show you how not to do what you did, but it doesn't sound like you did it. So it sounds like you might be seeing it that way, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. So I thought I'd reach out to Ryan. That sounds good.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and I'll tell you guys, if you guys, I've seen a lot of new agents that have never used a CRM before get very frustrated at Command. And I'll be the first person to admit, like I said, I'm not Keller Williams, rah, rah, rah. I'm pro Keller Williams. There are some issues with it, but the issues are never the same for me. It's like it might have an issue one day and I'll try it the next day and it works. I will tell you guys, I used to have to pay for my CRM. I paid $35 a month for something that was probably 5 times worse than Command. I paid for it. Now you guys are in a way paying for it through, being with Keller and your caps and your office fees and stuff like that. But I was paying all of that money plus $35 a month for a CRM that absolutely, I hated it. That thing sucked. Everything was manual. Everything was self-created. There was hardly any ways to figure out how to save yourself time in creating it. Command does have its flaws, but I mark my words. If you guys want to go out and try and find a better CRM, let me know. I'd love to see what the cost and price is. I'm always down to try different things. But I personally would not get frustrated with Command unless it's just not doing it for you. Then there's something wrong. But I've used it effectively. It works. It's got the same issues that all CRMs have. Sweet. Thanks, guys. I'll get this recording up right away. Take care.